Hello everyone, welcome to Exam Annex. This is Professor Ravi Ranjan here. Today we are going to discuss about the Indian banking industry. Those students who are preparing their examination for like SBI PO or IBPS PO, RBI Grade B examination. So this video is very important for them, and it is very important for those students, those who have to prepare for their interviews. So these type of questions are frequently asked in the MCQ format, in the written examination, and it's very important for your interviews for various provisionary officer level examination and officer level examination. So let's start a video. So those who are new to this channel, subscribe to this channel right now and press the bell icon for the further next notification. Today we are going to go with the basics of Indian banking industry, including the historical part as well as the types of bank, and next part we will covering out in the coming phases of the video. So today is part 1. Let's watch the video right now. So let's start the video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So today we are going to discuss about the Indian banking industry. So general awareness with a specific reference to banking, the examination which is conducted by IBPS, State Bank of India and RBI Grade B, and also other examinations for banking exams. So this topic is very important, as in mains examination approximately 5 to 10 questions is asked every year. So those students who has qualified various prelims exam, so this topic is very important for them, and this particular topic is also important in interviews, because the students who are preparing for the PO level examination interviews, these type of questions are also asked. So let's start the video. I am Professor Ravi Ranjan here, and those who are new to this channel, kindly subscribe the channel and share with your friends, and if you like the video, press the bell icon for the next notifications for the next updates, and also subscribe the channel right now. So let's start video. So first term is history of banking in India. Let's figure it out what happened actually. History of banking in India. As per the Banking Companies Act 1949, so there was a act that is called Banking Companies Act 1949. Banking is defined as a financial institution which accepts deposits for the purpose of lending or investment from the public, repayable on demand or otherwise, and withdrawable by check, draft, order or otherwise. So basically banking is a financial institution which accepts for deposits, and it is also helpful for lending or investment from the public, and if you want our money back, it returns our money as per our requirement. However, the money can be drawn through check, draft or money order, anything, right? So not only the cash, but in other ways the money can be withdrawn. Moving to the next one, history of banking in India. Let's have a look on it. This is the stages of evolution. So we have categorized the history of banking in 3 stages. First was pre-independence stage, when India was not independent, so before 1947, and the second phase consists of 1947 to 1991, and third phase includes 1991 and beyond. Moving to the next part. Now let us figure it out. What is the current situation of banks? Current situation of banks. Okay, right. So banks in India are currently fairly mature in terms of supply, product, range, and even though reach in rural areas still remains a challenge for the private sector and foreign banks. However, as we can see here, that current situation of banks in urban areas, it is fine, but if you'll go with like rural area or rural areas in villages, it is still a challenge. Means we are not available, the banks are not available as per comparison with the urban areas. So, and the foreign banks are also not reachable in the rural areas. Okay, so currently banks can be categorized into scheduled and non-scheduled banks, right? Banks can be categorized in scheduled and non-scheduled banks. Okay, let's figure it out. What is the meaning of scheduled bank? Scheduled banks in India are those banks which constitute those banks which have been included in the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. So according to the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India RBI Act 1934, scheduled banks has been included. All right. Okay. So how, if it is asked what are scheduled banks? So those banks that comes under the, that is included in the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India in 19 RBI Act 1934, that comes under scheduled banks. Okay. Now, the most important part is that these scheduled banks are comprised of commercial banks and cooperative banks. So it is further classified into commercial banks and cooperative banks. Let's know. Let us discuss what are commercial banks. Commercial banks majorly consist of or comprises of scheduled and non-scheduled commercial banks. It is further divided into scheduled and non-commercial, non-scheduled commercial bank regulated under Banking Regulation Act 1949. Ensure that second schedule is mentioned in 1934 RBI Act, while scheduled and non-scheduled commercial banks are regulated under Banking Regulation Act 1949. Now, commercial banks primarily works on a profit base. As we can see, the term commercial is used, right? The term commercial is used, so it works on a profit basis and it is engaged in the business of accepting deposits for the purpose of advances or loans, right? For giving loans or advances, this commercial banks works, and it refers to the business of accepting deposits. Now we can again recategorize, or we can categorize scheduled commercial banks into four types, right? Commercial banks into four types. First is a private sector bank. We will discuss the things one by one. What are the differences between these type of banks altogether, right? Public sector banks again is your private sector bank, and foreign banks, and another is regional rural banks. Now let us understand what is the meaning of public sector banks. The banks which has the stake of or share more than 51% or 50%, that belongs to 51% share or more than 50% share belongs to government of India, then we can say it is a public sector bank, right? If the share of that bank is more than 50% or 51% belongs to government of India, then it can be said as public sector bank. While a private sector bank is referred if more than 50% or more than 51% share or more belongs to private individual. Belongs to what? Private individual. Private individual. Like considering a case like Kotak Mahindra Bank, right? Uday Kotak, who is the CEO, right? Uday Kotak. Fine. So more than 51% share belongs to Uday Kotak. So it is called as private sector bank. Similarly holds true for Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, right? Now foreign banks are those banks who has headquarters that has its headquarters in foreign country but they are running in India, right? The regional rural banks are those banks that are available in the rural part of the India, right? Now moving to the next part, non-scheduled bank, right? What is that? Non-scheduled bank. Non-scheduled banks are defined in clause C of section 5 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949, that is section, that is 10 of 1949, which is not a scheduled bank, right? Ensure that what I said, we have already discussed that scheduled bank works for commercial basis, or that is commercial banks work for profit. Now coming to the next one is your Banking Regulation Act 1949. It, which one, according to 10th part of 1949, okay, of section 5 of Banking Regulation Act, non-scheduled banks are not a scheduled bank. Now, how can we say that? Let's figure it out. Reserve Bank of India is the only central bank of India, and all banks in India are required to follow the guidelines as issued by RBI. Now, as we can say that Reserve Bank of India is the regulator of all the banks, right? And it provides all the rules and regulations that is to be followed by other banks, right? Now we can classify banks in India as, let's figure it out, as I have already discussed. Now the first term is public sector bank, as I have already told you. right? These are those entities which are owned by government having more than 51% stake in the capital, right? So on the overall capital, if the government owns 51% stake, then it is referred to as public sector bank. Okay, and another term is your private sector bank. Private sector bank are those entities which are owned by private individuals or institutions. These are registered under the Companies Act 1956 as limited companies. Now, as I told you that the public sector bank is referred to as owned by government of India, while private sector bank is owned by right individual, and that is registered under the Companies Act, not under the Banking Regulation Act. Is that fine? Moving to the next part, regional rural bank, right? Regional rural banks, let's figure it out. In regional rural banks, I've already discussed here, that it belongs to the rural sector of the society. That belongs to the village part of it, right? In the villages and the rural part of the country, these regional rural banks are there. All right. So that refers to RRBs. These entities are completely under government and work for the government betterment for the rural sector of the society. While as scheduled banks works for the urban areas, right? That is in the city or in the town. Okay. Now moving to the next one is your development banks, right? Development bank. This works for the development. That is, these basically include Industrial Finance Corporation of India, right? Means this works for the industrial development of a country. Okay, Industrial Finance Corporation of India (IFCI), which was established in 1948. Export Import of Bank of India, that is Exim Bank, right? All the export and import transactions are done, and it is included under Export Import Bank of India, which was established in 1982. Now, another development bank is National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development, that is NABARD. Is that fine? Yes or no? Kindly make a note of it. Hope you have noted down. Okay, moving to the next, that is NABARD. Sometimes the full form of NABARD is asked, that is National Bank for Agricultural, Rural and Rural Development, which was established in 1982, and SIDBI, that is Industries Development Bank of India, which was established on 2nd April 1990, 1990, right? 1990. So these are the development banks, okay, which refers to the development of a country. All right. Now let us figure out some important terms or some important pointers related to your our banking industry. All right. The first in the Indian banking system. The first bank in India was Bank of Hindustan, that is in 1770. Okay. The first bank which was managed by Indians was Audh Commercial Bank. First bank with Indian capital was Punjab National Bank, and founder of the bank, that is Punjab National Bank, is Lala Lajpat Roy. Okay. First foreign bank that came in India is HSBC, Hong Kong Shanghai. I hope you have heard about it, right? Next, first bank to get ISO certificate is Canara Bank. First Indian bank outside India is Bank of India. Is first Indian bank outside of India is Bank of India, right? Which started its operation outside India. First bank to introduce ATM is HSBC. That was in 1987, Mumbai. Kindly make a note of it. One student is asking what is the full form of HSBC. Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. Okay. Now moving to the next. First bank to have a joint stock public bank, oldest is Allahabad Bank. This one is the oldest. Okay. So it worked as a joint sector or joint stock public bank. Next, the very interesting fact and important as well. First universal bank is ICICI. Sometimes the full form of this question is ICICI is formed asked Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India. Now, first bank to introduce savings account is Presidency Bank. That is Presidency Bank in 1833. However, in the coming period of time, we will discuss about the three presidency banks, that is Bank of Madras, Bank of Mumbai, and Bank of Chennai or Chennai. Bank of Madras, that was changed into Bank of Chennai, Bank of Bombay, and Bank of Bengal. Alright, moving to the next. First bank to introduce check system is Bengal Bank. Seems quite different. When we say Bengal Bank, that is called Bank of Bengal in 1833. First bank to give internet banking facilities ICICI. That's a quite interesting fact, right? It is a private bank. Yes. Okay. First bank to sell mutual funds is State Bank of India. So first State Bank of India is the one who started first in India its operation for selling mutual funds. First bank to issue credit cards is Central Bank of India. So credit card was first launched or issued by Central Bank of India. Still we are using it. Yes. Okay. First digital bank is Digibank. See, the term Digibank itself refers, and the first digital bank is Digibank. Okay. First rural regional bank, Grameen Bank, is Prathama Bank, sponsored by Syndicate Bank. Okay. So regional bank refers is Grameen Bank. It's very popular in India. I hope you are aware with that. So it is called as Prathama Bank. And it is sponsored by Syndicate Bank. So Syndicate Bank take care of it. Okay. And it is popular in the rural part of the country. First bank to get in principal banking license is IDFC and Bandhan Bank. So in principle, that is banking license to get is IDFC and Bandhan Bank. Note it. Kindly make a note of it. Do you know what is the full form of IDFC? Yes or no? So the full form of IDFC is Infrastructure Development. I'm just writing for you. Infrastructure Development Finance Company. Okay. Right. Okay. First bank. Next term is your first bank to introduce merchant banking in India is Greenlies Bank. Greenlies Bank is the first one which introduced merchant banking in India. First bank to introduce blockchain technology. Very important. This question was asked in the exam. Which is the first bank to introduce the blockchain technology is ICICI. Right. Now, first bank to introduce voice biometric is Citibank. Very interesting and important as well. So, voice biometric was introduced by Citibank, is the first bank to introduce. voice biometric. And the most important fact, first bank to introduce robot in banking service is HDFC. Make a note of it. So which bank was the first one which introduced robot? Now tell me, what is the full form of HDFC? What is the full form of HDFC? Housing Development Finance Corporation Limited. Finance Corporation Limited. Right? So that comes under the Companies Act, yes or no? So the first bank to introduce robot in banking services, HDFC. I hope whatever the discussions we have done today is clear to everyone, yes or no? Yes or no? So those who are coming right now, those have joined: Abhishek, Manisha, Rani, Sweta, Vikas, Ajay, Vinayak, Vijaya, Vidya. Okay, so share with your friends, and coming period of time we will discuss about Reserve Bank of India and its history, structure and functions of RBI. Right. So this is the part 1 session. We'll continue with the part 2 session. Right. So tune up with the next video. Thank you. This is Professor Ravi Ranjan here. Press the bell icon for the next updates, right? And join now and subscribe the channel right now. Thank you.